AI agents. What a fascinating topic we're going to talk about. Imagine having your own Jarvis. Jarvis, make a note. You've seen it in the movies, right? When Iron Man is in the suit, he has an assistant with him. It helps him figure out what to do next. He's able to do amazing things, assign work to Jarvis to get things done. And amazing things happen. In fact, it's really like having a superpower, some amazing capabilities that allow you to fly high in a tech suit. And these are topics that are becoming no longer science fiction. Hi, I'm Daniel Lemire, founder of AI Mistakes. Welcome to AI Mistakes. We're going to talk about AI agents tonight, and this is a really fascinating topic that is really exploded rapidly. We've seen an incredible rise in the use and deployment of AI agents, the announcements from companies that are deploying AI agents, and how you can use that capability to do all sorts of amazing things. We're going to talk about where we are today with the advent of virtual assistants, intelligent chatbots, and yes, AI agents. And what does it all mean for us? What can we do about this? What does it mean? What does the future hold? There's a lot for us to discuss tonight. I'm really excited to get to talk about all of the exciting things with the world of artificial intelligence here on the AI Mistakes channel broadcast. So, where are we and where are we going with things? Well, I want to start with some things that I've seen in the news, particularly in social media. We've got this situation. Okay. All of the popular channels are talking about this. In fact, just in the last week, we had the All In podcast guys talking about where we are with AI being deployed in the call center, this creation of AI agents. They talked about creating an AI for John Marsheimer. He basically put all of his information in and put up a website. You can go and chat with John Mearsheimer. Now, I'm not very familiar with Mr. Mearsheimer's work, but the reality is this is something that's happening. And really, in a finer detail, we have Reid Hoffman. He's actually created an AI of himself, complete with his visual appearance and his voice. And it was talked about today. I saw a story on X. He was being interviewed on the news about his AI being asked to show up all over the place. In fact, believe it or not, the news organizations and the channels and the programs are asking for Reid Hoffman AI instead of Reid Hoffman himself. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Reid generally tries to do a 2-for-1, right? You get the AI and I'll come along for the ride and make an appearance in person just to keep things interesting, of course. But I think we're already seeing the use and deployment of these kinds of capabilities. Now, is that an AI agent? Well, I think that's something we can talk about. I think we probably need to more precisely define what an AI agent is and what's happening in the larger ecosystem right now. And let's start with where we are from an opportunity perspective, because I think we need to understand where we are from economics. If we look at this chart, and I think, look, everybody's making a guess here, right? What can we gain from AI? I think it's easy to overstate the impact, but I think it's very clear at this point that AI at large is going to have a tremendous impact. My personal understanding of the situation is that we're kind of stacking everything that's happened with mobile with everything that's happened on the internet, and you cram them together. And that's probably the absolute minimum opportunity that we're talking about with AI going forward. And AI agents are a portion of this. But I think if we talk about what's possible and where things are headed, it might be the whole enchilada over time, because the way that we interact with things is really important. It's not just the information, it's not just the task, it's how we make it happen and what that experience looks like that is so critical to the growth. And I really believe that the AI agent story is going to be largely, at a minimum, excuse me, very close to what we see here. The global AI market is going to be in the trillions. And I don't think there's really a lot of debate about that. The question is, what exactly is that going to look like, and how can you and I benefit from it? Because AI really is advancing rapidly. Now, specifically, we've been talking about a lot of generative AI applicability across the board. And oddly enough, look, I put a picture of a robot here because I want to be clear. When we talk about the capabilities that generative AI is delivering, that is inclusive of robotics. In fact, what we are seeing is a real explosion of robotic capabilities through the use and deployment of generative AI models in controlling the robots and manipulating and deciding what it is the robot's going to do. This has been pioneered. The likes of Google have been working on this for years. It's not a new experiment, but we are seeing real progress in how those solutions are being developed. And that's actually something I'm going to talk about more on the channel as we progress. I've got some great things to share with you. But let's focus on what AI agents mean for us right now. And I actually want to start this with a question out to you. And by the way, if you're here for the first time, you've not had an opportunity to see the broadcast, I'd like to ask for you to give me a thumbs up. That really helps me to grow and get the attention of the high quality conversations that we're having here. And this is a live conversation. I'd love to interact with you. For those of you that are actually watching the broadcast live on whatever social platform you're on, I would like to invite you to drop those comments in there. Let me hear from you. Let's talk about this because I want to understand, what is the first question you ask when you think of AI agents? I mean, what are you interested in? What is the thing that pops into your mind about AI agents? Is this something that's familiar to you? Or do you feel like this is a very nascent area in the topic of AI that maybe bears some additional discovery? Well, I think this is an important question to ask because depending on what your experiences are, you may or may not already be familiar with what you get from AI agents. We've talked about the increase in productivity with the use of AI. And I think anything that helps us get our work done is really valuable. And that's probably not unique to AI agents in particular. I mean, look, I've talked about the use of AI in getting my tasks done, and there's not a lot of agent things going on there, at least not at first blush. I think many people think about the concept of an agent and what it means for their job. How are things going to change? How is my life going to be impacted by these external forces? Is the company that I work for going to deploy and use this? And if so, how? And does it affect me? What does that mean for me and the work that I'm doing? The flip side of that equation, of course, is, maybe it's time for you to consider starting your own thing. When we think about the workforce, you can't fire yourself. It may mean you don't have customers and there's some work to be done there, but this is a great time to think about what you want to do, right? If you could do anything, if your powers were amplified with AI, and that's where we are right now, maybe that's something to consider. That could lead to a better experience for you and for others. I think there are some real advantages to the capabilities that are out there with AI and AI agents. So let's talk about where we are with the story. I think the reality is that many of us have already had an experience with AI agents. I think, when you have something go and retrieve information for you, that really is an agent. If you've used any of the capabilities that are widely deployed, Siri, Alexa, and Google in particular, most everyone is familiar with. For me, I actually think that to a significant degree, what I get from Perplexity is very much like an agent. Now, I'm on the pro level subscription. I'm using Perplexity many times a day to get my work done, to learn about things, to answer questions. And as I'm posing that question, it's breaking down the question. It's trying to understand what it is that I mean, covering it in multiple different ways, and then presenting me with an answer. So I actually think that Perplexity might very well qualify as an AI agent. And that's an important distinction we need to make because first we have to settle, is this even a thing today? And I very much think that it is, but we are just beginning to understand what can be done. You see, when we talk about AI agents, we're at the very beginning of what's possible. We're at the beginning of what people are building, and we have a lot of exploring to do. I think there's a lot of potential from an AI mistake standpoint of where we can take the technology. And this is where we have to be careful because if you look at what AI agents can do today, there's some key areas that come up. Healthcare is absolutely one of those. And I think when you and I go and visit a physician, if we're looking for help with our health, we do want to have the best possible diagnostics, treatment, and care management possible. I don't think I'd want to give that to an AI completely at this point because they're not in the room with me. I think we have a lot of capabilities that are already out there. AI can definitely be a direct assistant and aid to that healthcare professional in understanding what's going on, interpreting symptoms, identifying potential solutions, and taking action on the knowledge that is at hand. But also, this is kind of a scary thing, right? To realize that you could be giving yourself over to a machine for deciding what your health is. That's an important consideration, and I think that we're going to need to really have that conversation, right? What is it that you want for your own healthcare? How much does it matter? Would you like to have 24/7 access to an AI assistant, an AI agent that can help you with your healthcare? And how do the healthcare professionals feel about you doing that? I mean, I have some friends and family that are in the healthcare space, and no, we've had a conversation about it, right? How many patients are looking up their diagnosis at home and then bringing that with them when they go in to see the doctor? That is a thing that's happening, and oftentimes it's very wrong, and that's really the challenge. But as we continue the evolution of this technology, we are quickly approaching a time where the capabilities of AI models deployed as AI agents are reaching a point that they might actually outperform the professionals that are doing that work. That's kind of an interesting situation. And that really applies across all of these finance, retail, manufacturing. Look, there's a lot of work that individuals are doing to ensure that things are happening the right way. And even if you can't take everything that a person does in those situations, you can absolutely offload some of the work. You can improve the work, you can gain some additional insights, and that's really, I think, where we are going to be with AI agents. We're going to talk about what it means for an AI agent to help you do your work. And where an AI agent is different than just using a large language model to get a summary or pull together the details and answer questions. It's a little more precise, in my view, in terms of what AI agents are doing. And part of the reason why we have AI agents today is that some of these things, in fact, are being done by AI. Now, the first word that we use in talking about this idea of autonomous. Now, when we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, it means it's coming up with an answer to whatever it is that you're doing. And I think from an agent perspective, there is this idea of action. And that really is what all of the things before it lead to. An agent is really going to touch all of these to some degree. It's going to conduct some amount of research to understand, okay, what is it that we're trying to do? And then it's going to look at that from multiple different ways to approach the problem, comparing those options. Then ultimately it's going to make a decision about what needs to happen, and then it's going to turn that into action. Now, oftentimes with our highly technical society today on the internet, that means it's interacting with other systems. It might be browsing a website, clicking an interface, shopping on Amazon.com to pick out that product that we need that solves our problem, and then actually committing that. Now, we have seen situations already in the world today where people are composing the automation story that is effectively an AI agent. In fact, in some of the discussions I've seen this week, there was actually the conjecture that someone who was getting work from a task based website like Fiverr, they were asking the question, Am I working for an AI agent? Am I working for a large language model? I talked to someone on the phone when I started the work, and there was a long delay between when I spoke and when they answered. That could be handled by a large language model. And what made them really suspicious subsequent to that was that every time they tried to call their boss, it didn't matter what time of day it was, they were never able to actually get them on the phone. And everything was handled by email, and often with a very quick or terse email that didn't provide a lot of opportunity for analysis or interrogation. Is it possible that that's happening today? Absolutely. We have seen research and studies where, believe it or not, a large language model has been persuasive enough to create a communication to a human to get them to complete a CAPTCHA. And oddly enough, that's probably not going to be necessary anymore because the large language models are actually completing the CAPTCHA without a problem completely on their own. They don't even need a human. And these systems that we've already put in place to reduce and control the prevalence and deployment of bots is something that we're going to have to contend with. In fact, I think that's really the big question that I'm going to end the discussion today is, what does it mean to have all of these bots everywhere? But we need to think about what AI agents mean in terms of our experience and kind of where this conversation is going. And I think there's a couple of risks. I think the first risk that we need to call out is that there is this habit to see what's possible with these AI agents, with what people are being successful in deploying, and just assuming that it's possible to do that with anything. So many of the demos and explanations that we see about AI showing off feature set, it's limited to a subset of people that are able to access it. It's in preview. It's not something you can actually put your hands on. And that's usually because in developing that demo, they had to do a lot of work, a lot of trial and error. It doesn't work very well. It's really not successful every time. In fact, what we're seeing with some of the tools out there that people are using, it's still pretty heavy trial and error. These systems are by far not perfect. I think the question that we need to ask is there a trade-off here that makes sense? Because if it takes me an hour to build an application that solves a problem, and I can do that dozens of times with an autonomous AI agent that's developing code, writing that application for me, it's still done in less than an hour. Have I spent a lot of money on tokens in order to do the inferencing necessary to create the application? Sure. But if I earn, hundreds of dollars an hour and I'm paying only a few dollars, like 5 or $12 for that same capability to be developed with an AI agent, from a business perspective, it's a pretty straightforward story, right? The same amount of time, but the results kind of speak for themselves. And today, I'm working through that wizard. I'm clicking through that agent and examining what it gives me back and deciding if that's a good thing or not. But in most cases, if you're developing an application today, you're hiring an individual to do that work. You may no longer need to hire someone else. Or from an economies of scale perspective, maybe you can hire somebody that's less skilled to have the AI agent do that work for you. So there is absolutely some concern there, and we need to think about what it means in our society at large to be using these AI agents and deploying them in more ways as we go. If you've ever had a phone conversation, I think everybody's had both experiences, right? You've called in and they were able to solve your problem immediately. Talking to the human, you were able to explain what happened, they understood it, they were able to take action on it, solve your problem, and you were off the phone in a few minutes. You've probably also had that experience where you get on and you're stuck in this unlimited phone tree where you're not able to solve your problem and you're not able to get to a human. And it's just really frustrating. But imagine the scenario where you're able to get on the phone and explain the problem and it fixes it and you actually don't have to talk to a human. Is that a better answer? Is how quintessentially important is the human in that conversation? Is that something that we want? And I think for a lot of people, the answer is I don't care. I just want to get my thing done. So this leads us kind of into, well, what's going to happen with AI agents if we can identify scenarios where clearly there's value? I think it means that things are going to happen, and we need to start thinking about what does that look like? What are the key changes that we're going to experience, observe, and what do I need to do about it? This week there was some conversation that I came across on X. Jeremiah Aoyang, I think is how you pronounce that, is very active in the San Francisco startup community for AI. He's actually been putting on these events for a while. And one of the folks that I follow for AI coverage actually mentioned and shared some things about AI agents this week. So thanks to Jeremiah, I have some really great things to share with you. I think Jeremiah has actually put some real thought into this, and I found it to be insightful. So I wanted to share it with you because I want this to be more widely understood. And this is real work that Jeremiah is doing, I think, to benefit the startup community and to help people think about what this means. He's a venture capitalist guy now. He's got attachment to identifying these companies and investing in them for where it makes sense. So let's just go down the list here and talk about what these are. And I'll make it a little bigger on the screen so we can all see it. AI agents bring the internet to humans. This is an interesting one because one of the arguments that he's making actually is that the experience we have on the internet today is driven by our eyeballs. And if you put an AI agent into that where it's collecting those answers for you, that's going to be a pretty substantial change. And it means that instead of you and I having our eyeballs on the screen to find the information or to do the task, it means that the AI agent is going to do it for you. And that has a very specific implication because it means that how we're delivering information and processing tasks is likely rife for disruption, right? Maybe things are going to be more API based, or maybe it's less human focused interfaces. If we have search engine optimization today where people are building websites and they are optimizing what you see on the screen, and they are optimizing what the search engine sees on the screen, and those are often very different experiences. What does it mean to do AI agent optimization? So that's an interesting question. And I think it's going to have a lot of implications on user experience, design practices, and intelligent systems. Because the other part of this is maybe you don't actually want to use a large language model or an agent to do something. I mean, we've seen a lot of tests with the more advanced models giving it a math problem to solve. Now, arguably, it's silly to ask a large language model to add two numbers. There's tons of computation that's having to take place there. And it is a good test to see if it can think through what you're handing it. But there are a lot of places where we could build an AI agent to do our tasks, but it's also very inefficient for doing that completely. So that has major implications for where we're going to go with that next. Okay, as a downstream impact of the AI agents bringing the internet to you, we're going to see a change in the way that media and revenue models are in play. His conjecture here is that a tool like Perplexity is actually going to embed ads because you're looking at Perplexity rather than the website that Perplexity is gathering the information from. I think this has a substantial implication for Google because honestly, they're all about your eyeballs, right? Putting those ads in front of your face as you're searching for the results, as you're watching a YouTube video. But if the AI is doing that for you, there's not really a lot of reason for you to pay for the placement of ads from Google. I mean, honestly, it really is about getting your eyeballs on the ad. So for us to switch to an AI agent based search of the web, that has some pretty substantial implications. The third point he's made here is that traditional companies are going to respond to the loss of power. Look, This is the definition of disruption, right? When we talk about the way that a company functions, and then you fundamentally change aspects of that experience, the way that they're able to earn revenue or get work done, and something else is able to come in behind them and change things fundamentally from the way that they've been operating, that is a disruption. And we're looking at exactly that situation. And this means that you are also going to see your tech organizations adopt this AI agent capability. We've got already the big players are creating offerings around the use or deployment or creation of AI agents. I think we're going to see more ways that those are deployed. And what Jeremiah is calling out here is that we're actually talking about this concept of an agent marketplace. Today everyone's familiar with the App Store. Before we had mobile devices, we had applications that we installed with disks on a computer. There is some mechanism whereby you have a fundamental operating model and then you stack something on top of that to get the things done that you want to accomplish. So, absolutely, I really do believe that that is a big one to talk about. And then as I opened the discussion, we talked a little bit about economics and what that's going to mean, but there's bigger shifts that are tied to that, whether it's conducting trade, right? Buying, selling, trading, those functions are likely to happen at the behest of an agent. So instead of you and I completing that transaction, our agents will ostensibly do that for us. And it also means the way that we're learning and interacting with others, as well as monitoring, keeping an eye on things. Governance in transactions and trade is an essential thing. So that is definitely going to be impacted by the changes that are coming. And I think it's important that we have these kinds of ideas in mind as we go forward, because there's going to be a lot of opportunity to build these kinds of solutions or integrate these solutions. Look, this is going to change everything, and we're all going to have to be ready to adopt and adapt to what's coming our way. What does it mean for you and I to be operating in this new agent world? And are these predictions correct? Are they well thought out? Are they accurate? And I got to tell you, I think across the board, they are. When we talk about internet bots, we've already got bots. I mean, that's why you and I have to fill out captchas, right? Because there's a bot out there. That bot is doing things on behalf of a human, ostensibly. And we don't want all of that to be automated for a lot of reasons. There are some significant problems that come out of the replication of bots that are doing things that we really don't want an automation to be doing for a variety of reasons. Ads are just one of those. And that revenue shift is taking place. We are already seeing implications from services that are not getting the same level of attention or ad revenue. We've got the disruption potential for all of the organizations, and you see the largest tech companies are adopting and shifting the way that they operate. There's been a lot of traffic in the startup community. Acquisitions are happening because people and organizations are identifying that they need to have these capabilities in their platforms so that they can continue to sustain their position. And from a bot proliferation standpoint, look, we are seeing more and more of this. Search engine optimization is one of the areas we've already talked about on the channel. If you can just stand up a website and have a large language model create all of that content to attract attention, well, yeah, that is going to be something that's going to happen. And until we put in place mechanisms that prevent that, it's something we need to be concerned about. But this last element here, the bot proliferation, is really a concern, because as these agents get better and more effective, it also means that there is a propensity for you and I to get fooled. It's possible for you and I to make the AI mistake of thinking the bot is a real human. And that could be a politician, that could be the CEO of your company. If you are able to take Reid Hoffman and create an AI of him that looks like him and sounds like him, what's the likelihood that somebody with the right level of investment of time and resources could replicate your CEO, give you a phone call and say, Could you transfer thousands of dollars to this other account because we're trying to close a deal and this has got to be done? This is a situation that has already happened, and it was a substantial amount of money. There was a team that actually got together and created a high fidelity, essentially AI agent version of a CEO and tricked a person into transferring funds. That's a pretty incredible situation, and these are far and few between. There's a lot of opportunity here, and I think we're just at the very beginning. So we have to be careful about how we talk about these things because they are happening, but they're not everywhere. But having established that this is a real thing, where does that leave us right now? The way that I see things is we are looking at an adoption scenario where you're going to continue to see narrowly focused, specialized AI agents. They will be able to do narrow things. And actually, I think that this is the successful model across the board for the foreseeable future. In fact, no matter how good the foundational models get, we are going to see that you will have to narrowly focus in order for this to work in any kind of reliable scenario. In fact, if I were to build the perfect application for this, it would be something that lets me very tightly control the tasks that are being done because I want to be sure it's going to be taken care of well. Now, you might experiment with something that is a lot more on its own and expanded and able to test things out. That is part of that trial and experimentation that I advocate here on AI mistakes. Go make the mistakes with the model so you're testing it out, pushing the limits and understanding what is it actually capable of. But the application of this technology today is very narrow, right? If you and I are in the room and we want to turn the lights on and we yell out the activation word, hey, bot in the corner, turn on the lights, that works, right? But that's a very narrow, specialized application because you're able to instantly tell if it's successful and you're able to program that and extend it in other ways to create larger things. But it's still very narrow in terms of what it's actually doing when you vocalize that turn the lights on. To a degree, they're not reliable, and the narrow specialization is what's helping to fix that. And I want to be clear here. I think that the capability of AI agents is going to expand over time. This is not something that it's always going to be that way, but it's important that we not dismiss AI agents entirely out of the gate because they are getting better. This is a real thing that many people are working on, and they're creating real value. And with that real value creation that they're doing, there is a specific set of industries that will have a larger impact from AI agents than others. As they called out on the All In podcast, as I opened the program, you saw that customer service is probably one of those areas. The call centers are going to be disrupted. Call centers are already a challenge on a number of different fronts. And if I'm able to pick up my phone and talk to an agent that speaks my language, that does not have an accent that confuses me, that is able to solve my problem, that's ultimately where it's at. I mean, an open AI releasing their vocalization capabilities this week further impresses upon everyone how easy it is. I mean, imagine you call the call center and you actually tell the call center agent how you want it to talk to you, in what kind of tone of voice, in what kind of accent. I mean, people might actually have fun with that. That's not something I particularly care about, but what I do care about is that I can understand you and that I can get the thing that I am after in the conversation, the whole reason I called you in the first place. And as we've talked about, look, this is already having active impacts to organizations that are making money. We are seeing a lot of dollars change hands. When somebody figures this out, it's going to be a nearly instantaneous change in revenue and dollars that are being spent. Let's go back to Jeremiah for a minute because he completed the play, in my view, by talking about what the agent ecosystem looks like. And this is pretty highly detailed. I'm an architect. I like to see how these things lay out. Understanding the core underlying capability here, we've got the marketplace, right? We've got foundational models, we've got enterprise capabilities, we've got tech and startups. And then stacking on top of that, you've got your application and your application agent platforms that connect to those large language model, the foundational models. And then you've got a management layer, because as you are deploying those agents, you're going to have to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're going to have to be able to do things on your behalf. They're going to have to be able to make payments and complete transactions, ostensibly even with humans. One of the interesting viral stories that was on social media that I came across this week was there was a gentleman that actually went to go interview for a job, and he was interviewed by an AI bot. I don't know. That doesn't feel good to me. I don't think that's a good idea. You can, right? I don't think you should. And this is the other area where we're going to have to make some key decisions. And then, of course, there's the data layer. And the data layer is probably, it's at the bottom. And I think it belongs as the foundation, because that's actually what makes all of this possible. There's a lot of people that are working on this. I mean, just to build this visualization, we got dozens of names on the slide here. This is there's a lot of effort going into this. And so we need to not underestimate the impact that this is going to have. So what are you going to do, right? If you have this knowledge, if you know this is out there, what does it mean? For some of us, it means you're going to be building them. And for others of us, it means you're going to be deciding whether or not you're going to use them. Because even if you're not building them, it doesn't mean that you can't make your life better by finding ways to get work done and solve real problems for you by the use of the AI agents. But if you want to learn about this stuff, and this is something I'm researching actively, I'm reading about this nearly every day in the news and in the books that I'm reading and in the things that I'm playing with. If you want to get your hands dirty with the tech, there are actually a lot of opportunities. There's been a lot of talk about Replic's AI agent that's building software. Cursor is, probably halfway toward that agent capability, because it's doing multiple things. It's certainly not just a simple large language model. There's actually action. It's creating files. It's doing work for you. And then you can build kind of your own custom capabilities with AutoGPT. Google Vertex has an AI agent builder. Microsoft has AutoGen. And of course, OpenAI is continuing to evolve their offerings. They have GPTs today, but they're already applying their model work to running robots. So that, again, is an action. And, that may be another area to explore, right? If you can take a conversational component of AI and turn that into action in a robot, that is a form of AI agent. And I think we have some exciting opportunities ahead, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows, because the question I want to leave you with today that we're going to talk about next time on AI Mistakes is what happens when AI agents outnumber humans? Because I think there's a real potential that this could happen, and it may not take as long as you think. So next time on AI Mistakes, we'll talk more about AI agents and what could be the future for humans and AI to coexist together in that beneficial relationship with each other. I want to thank you for being here, taking the time to watch the program. I hope you're finding it really valuable. I really enjoyed doing this, and I'd love to interact with you. Please don't hesitate to drop a comment, share a note, find me on social media, ask me a question. There's a lot of opportunities for us to interact and learn together. And it's time to go make some AI mistakes. We'll see you next time.